As is the case each year, this bill is the legislative companion to the government's budget, and some of the measures contained in the bill are positive measures that will support South Australians. In particular, the Greens are supportive of removing stamp duty for eligible first home buyers on the purchase of a new home on vacant land and removing the value cap for the first homeowner grant for eligible contracts. I recognise that these measures will support some people who are trying to enter the housing market, but of course we know that this is only rewarding those South Australians who are lucky enough to be able to purchase their own home. It doesn't do anything to address the broader issues that we face around housing affordability in our state. Indeed, I have a bill before Parliament that would increase the requirement on developers to build more social and affordable housing, lift the requirement from just 15% to 30%, significantly boosting the availability of affordable housing and social housing in our state, and I urge the Labor Party to support that. We also need to see action for renters in this budget. The Greens have been campaigning for a long time to extend the cost of living concession onto renters, and I acknowledge the Malinauskas government's leadership in doing that in the last budget, but we need to see the government go further in terms of providing support to renters who are struggling. We need a rent freeze. The Greens have been campaigning for this for some time. We know that a freeze of rents, if it had been instituted last year when the Greens first proposed it, would have saved South Australians thousands and thousands of dollars in rent. It's not okay that we have some South Australians that are making a mozza, some landlords who are making record profits and rent prices continue to skyrocket, while other South Australians are continuing to struggle to make ends meet and to be able to provide a home for their family. Renting is not a choice for most South Australians. It's the only option that they have, and housing is a fundamental human right. And so I am disappointed that there hasn't been the action on the circumstances that renters face within this bill. I do recognise that the government has taken some action on payroll tax for GPs. It was an issue that the Greens, along with the Honourable Connie Benares and other members in this place, were very active on last year. We do call, however, for the government to extend that exemption in the regulations to practitioners, such as physiotherapists and dentists, who are being affected in the same way as GPs. This, of course, comes after the New South Wales Supreme Court decision that found that tenant GPs who pay a percentage of their earnings to a clinic rather than being paid a wage count as employees for payroll tax purposes. We will be supporting this bill on the basis that there's some positive change in that regard, and of course we support the budget measures bill, as is the convention, in terms of enabling the activities of the government. I am also disappointed in terms of talking about health, that there was no action on ambulance call-out fees. And the Greens made a submission to the government. We called on them to slash those fees and to bring South Australia into line with other states. Again, there's no action. I do just want to touch on the Liberals harping about debt. I think it's fair to say that some of their critique is disingenuous. They were in government, as we know, for that brief period where the Treasurer, Rob Lucas, handed down an enormous deficit. Now, I make no criticism of that because he was dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, and I think it was right that the Marshall government provided support to some South Australians that are struggling. So I make absolutely no criticism of that. But to then come into this chamber years later and to start banging on about debt, I think is a bit rich, given the circumstances that every state government and every government has faced nationally as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. So the Liberals, they talk about debt in their budget response, but they have no plan to deal with it other than cutting public services, which they say isn't on the cards. They say they don't want to privatise public services either, which is good. Then I don't see how they're going to plug the debt. They talk about cost of living relief, but then when honourable members put forward suggestions for dealing with cost of living, they're vehemently opposed to them. So I don't know what exactly their approach is. I'm none the wiser in terms of how they would do things differently. Maybe between now and the election, they'll actually outline a vision to the people of South Australia. In terms of some of the amendments that have been filed on this bill, I note the Honourable Frank Pangello has filed an amendment in relation to stamp duty. Look, the Greens don't support the Honourable Frank Pangello's amendment. I've indicated to the Honourable Member my reasons for that. Whilst we want to reform stamp duty, we don't believe this should be done as a standalone measure. To do so would blow a huge hole in the budget and not actually address housing affordability unless it's accompanied by action on land tax. And indeed, I'm very open to looking at what we can do in that space, whether there is a more equitable way that we can approach land tax and then reduce stamp duty. So let's keep that conversation going. But we won't be supporting the Honourable Frank Pangello's amendment on the basis that it really pulls the rug out in terms of taking action where it's needed. I also note the amendment from the Honourable Connie Benares. I do understand her sentiments in relation to that. But we won't be supporting the Honourable Connie Benares' amendment in this instance. I'm keen to see, after many months, some movement on this bill. But rest assured, the Greens will be out there in the community talking about our alternative vision in terms of dealing with cost of living, and hope that the government will take up some of those ideas when it comes to crafting their next budget.